So A24 has released a brand new horror film, Heretic. We obviously know that this studio, this distributor, they're very much known for their horror films. Horror kind of put them on the map, I would say. I think that
Hmm.
A24, in terms of like becoming very, very popular within current pop culture zeitgeist consciousness, it was really their horror films that kind of gave them the edge, I think, compared to other independent film distributors. And now this
Agreed.
new film, Heretic, actually has like a pretty notable star attached to it, and Hugh Grant.
Mhm.
You know, Hugh Grant's pretty famous. He's been acting for a long time. A lot of people have seen him in many different things, and so they put his face all over the poster, all over the trailer. And they actually premiered this movie earlier this year at the Toronto International Film Festival before ultimately giving it wider distribution this past weekend. And it's a movie we got a chance to go check out. It's about two Mormon missionaries who show up at a reclusive Englishman's house, and they decide to try to convert him and educate them about Mormon practices, and things are not what they seem. But we got a chance to go check out this movie this past weekend. So with all of that out the way, man, I will pass it over to you. What do you think about this brand new A24 film, Heretic?
Yeah, I was really excited to see this film. To be honest, I think I had only seen the trailer like one time, but the poster is really cool to me. I know I don't know, it's very basic, but it's like, oh, look at this poster. This looks weird and creepy, and that's clearly Hugh Grant. And Hugh Grant, this is not his bag. You know what I'm saying? Like, horror is not his bag. He's not usually here, like that. And so I was very interested to see, I think, Hugh Grant in a role like this. That's, again, something so different from at least what I know him as. I'm used to rom-com Hugh Grant for the most part. I'm not used to, horror thriller Hugh Grant. And that's what we got here. In Heretic, it is, you said it, it's about these two missionary girls, and they're trying to kind of tell Hugh Grant's character, preach the gospel, I guess, to Hugh Grant's character. And like you said, it gets really weird. And that being said, it's fine. It's a fun movie to watch. And I think anybody who has had any thoughts or any contact on religion and what that means for you personally, or not even personally, shoot, in some ways politically, I think this movie's interesting. It brings up a lot of interesting points, things to hear, things you might agree with, things you might disagree with, things that are just but it's the dialogue, I think, in this movie that is my favorite. The fact that we're even talking about some of these things and discussing some of these things, I think, in this way, and he makes you question things. This movie makes you question things in its dialogue, that it perks your ears up and go, huh, I never thought about this like that. Or maybe you have thought about something like this, like that, and you do agree with, some things that are being said. But that that dialogue being wrapped in a, I guess, a horror bow is yeah, it's stuff, it's unlike something I think I've seen before. Usually we get like these crazy demonic movies that are trying to do this, or like something that has to do with the Pope. If I see one more Pope movie, I might go crazy. But the Pope's Exorcist and the Pope, all these Pope things that tries to make you, I think, ask some of these exact same questions. But here again, they're doing it in such a different way that it includes intensity in again, just dialogue. And so I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. Not a perfect movie. I thought this was going to be something else, and that might be the fault of my own expectations. I thought it would be a little different. I thought it would be even more horror coded than what it is. But by the end of it, I found it to be fine. I think some of the movies like this tend to be plot twisty. Some of the plot twists were just like, that wasn't really plot twisty to me, or I don't know. I expected a little more from it. That's just the nature of the film for me. I'm not mad at it. I'm actually happy again that some of these talking points and some of the things they touch in the movie exist. But yeah, I think it was a fine watch, and yeah, I hope people get to see it. I think it touches on a lot.
So this year in particular, we've been getting a lot of religious horror movies. We've gotten Immaculate and The First Omen and The Exorcist, which was like this weird, not the Pope's Exorcist from Russell Crowe, but just like another Exorcist style movie that he was in that's not attached to the Pope's Exorcist for whatever reason.
I still can't believe it.
We decided to not talk about that one on the pod. Not much to say there, but a lot of religious themed horror has come out this year in particular, probably more so than a few other years. I mean, it's always been a mainstay in horror, obviously. There's just, so many things you can do there, but this year in particular, there's been a lot. But also this year, we've gotten a lot of movies where some people show up to a weird, creepy house and they meet a strange man, and that strange man ultimately turns out to be more dangerous than he appears or seems. I'm talking about Speak No Evil. I'm talking about Oddity.
Mm-hmm.
It's this brand new genre of people showing up to people's houses and shit hits the fan. It's just this weird new place that we're existing where there's an increased, I guess, focus on this idea of seeking out the help of people, or just putting aside any maybe reservations that you might have about meeting a stranger.
Mhm.
I guess that's the best way that I can put it. There's just this idea of trusting, or putting some form of belief in strangers. But obviously, coming into this movie, you just know, like, this guy is not to be trusted. Everything he's doing is very, very sus. But when you are in that position, and when you do have to deal with, like, whether or not you feel uncomfortable, or whether or not somebody might be leading you down a very dark path somewhere that could, lead to your harm, that's more of a gray area that I don't think people often think about as much. I think it's
Yeah.
easy for us as audience members to look at something and be like, why would you do that? Why would you do that? Why would you go down? But when you're in a situation like that, especially if you're performing a job in which the two characters here are, because they're just
Mhm.
like performing their task, they're a part of the Church of Latter-day Saints, they're just showing up at a house, spreading the word. They meet a man who feels unassuming, and they give him all the guidelines, but then all of a sudden, one thing leads to another thing, and one bad decision kind of leads to another bad decision, and next thing you know, you're trapped in a fucking house and you can't get out. And I think a lot of us would like to think that we're smarter than that, but if
Mhm.
the pressure was really there to actually, like, follow
Mhm.
through with something like that, you might end up in that same type of predicament. And I thought that that idea of that progression was communicated really, really well in this movie. That's the aspect I think I liked about it the most, was just the fact that somebody could really
Yeah.
disarm you with one small word, one small mention of something, a lie, a white lie, like just the smallest things, and they can add up. And as they add up over time, this ultimately becomes now a big, 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 big problem. And now your life is on the
Mhm.
line. And that progression and that tension that builds over the course of Heretic's runtime, I thought was masterfully done. And what I also really liked was the fact that it is, like, more dialogue heavy. This very much is an idea movie. It's about belief and disbelief and faith and systems, and what you decide to believe in, and all of those different big heady concepts. And Hugh Grant is the best at conveying those ideas. Like, they give his
Yeah.
character so much to do. He's making some of the wildest metaphors that actually make sense throughout this movie. Like, some of the things that he decides to use at his disposal to try to convey a point. It's like, damn, that makes a lot of sense. I never thought about it that way. And I don't even know if it's 100% true, but I believe you because you're saying it with so much conviction. That's how
Yeah.
good his performance is. And he really is the best part, I think, of this movie. But he's only as good as his acting partners. And I will say that Sophie Thatcher and Chloe East here, I thought, were also really tremendous in their roles, because they certainly
Agreed.
have to present him some sense of rebellion in terms of the ideas that he's presenting, but they're also like women, who are in this strange house with a man, and they don't necessarily
Mhm.
know what to do. And I thought that they were totally believable, and I really enjoyed their performances. But beyond that, I think it's, it's mostly it's a good movie. It's fine. It's enjoyable if you enjoy things that talk about ideas in this way, as opposed to just like the traditional thrills that you would probably get out of
Mhm.
this particular genre. Like, it doesn't necessarily escalate to a point where it's like, oh my God, the big reveal happened. There it goes. It's almost, similar to Speak No Evil in that way, where it's like you
Yeah.
kind of go the entire time and things are mostly okay. Like, for the most part, like, things are they're kind of chill, until they're not. Like, all of a sudden they're just like not out of nowhere.
Mhm.
And I don't know if that's a good or bad thing. I don't know if it works in the movie's benefit or if it actually works against it. But overall, I thought it was a pretty fine movie and pretty enjoyable. Really, the reason to see this is to see Hugh Grant just do something, very different than we're traditionally used to seeing him do, and to really kind of have fun with his role, and sink his teeth into
Mhm.
it, and kind of explore some new things with some new ideas. And so I thought it was a pretty decent horror movie. But overall, folks, those were our thoughts on the brand new A24 film Heretic. If you got a chance to check this out, hit us up and let us know what you think about it.